Tibia is a game that feeds off nostalgia. A lot of people in their 20s or 30s played the game at some point of their life, and because it was, and some might argue that it still is a rich RPG in terms of difficulty and playing experience, every now and then you will think of the game and feel like checking it out. For some people, it's enough to open the website and see the new changes, and most of the times disregard the changes because you don't like them and lose the interest of playing really quickly. However, there's also people that despite the new changes and directions the game has been taking, they feel like trying the game one more time. This must apply to you since you're watching this video. Hopefully I'll be able to convince you to come back and play the game. Before we start, I want to give the disclaimer that this video is focused on the general changes to all sorts of things about Tibia. It's not a guide, and I plan on making a separate video on the more practical changes like imbuements, praise system, and charms. With that out of the way, let's get started. The first thing we need to think about is when was the last time you played the game, because even though I personally feel like the game is still very much the same concept, I can't deny that there has been a lot of new content, but in reality it goes towards making the game easier and less punishing for new players. You may remember one of the things you liked of the game back then was the harsh punishment when dying, as you could literally lose a couple of days of work in just a few seconds, sometimes even through things outside of your control like your internet going off. This has been kind of reduced. Recently, with the introduction of the two new blessings, the loss experience per death when having all blessings is much lower. Depending on the level, you might lose just a few minutes of hunting, maybe an hour. The new two blessings are however more focused towards higher levels, as it is not necessarily worth it for the lower levels. However, again, depending on how long ago you last played, the blessings back in the days were 10k each, rounded up to 50k per the 5 blessings, but now they start at a base 2k per blessing and increases by 200 gold each level until they settle at 20k. This means you're able to afford blessings at much lower levels than before, and this protects you from the deaths and the possibility of losing your equipment. In PvP servers such as OpenPvP, you have an 8th blessing called Twist of Fate. This blessing is meant to protect your regular blessings from deaths by players. This means if you get PK'd by a player, you will receive the reduction of experience from the blessings without actually losing them, at the cost of just losing the Twist of Fate. This is one of the areas the game has become easier, because it reduces a lot of the unnecessarily harsh punishment. But speaking of the servers, you might be confused with all the titles nowadays, so let's break it down. Optional PvP means no PvP. Open PvP means PvP is allowed, but with a bunch of complex limitations to the skull system. Retro Open PvP means PvP with the old skull rules. Retro Hardcore PvP means the old PvP enforced server where you gain the experience from killing players, and the Hardcore PvP is PvP enforced without the experience reward. Leaving that aside, the game has also become a lot easier in terms of experience. In an attempt to promote the team hunts and balance the vocations, now you get benefits from being in a party and team hunting with people at around your level. These benefits are 10% if a 2 party of the same vocation, 20% if different vocations, 40% if 3 vocations, and lastly 60% if all 4 vocations are different. This promotes the idea of hunting with other players a lot more than before, and is no longer a grind of soloing your way to the top, although it's still possible if that's your preference. The next subject is the money. This is another area where the game has become a lot easier. Lately, with every new update, the creatures that added tend to drop a lot more loot and gold than the previous versions, and this has been a trend for a couple of updates now, which obviously devalues the money in-game by a lot. Usually on a new server could last up to a few months. After that, most of the regular items will be worth the price of the NPCs, and the rare items might still be expensive. This is not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion, because with the introduction of add-ons and imbuements, the game opens up a new market balance for the lower and higher levels. Since at lower levels it's pretty hard to get good experience, but most of the creatures that you can hunt drop products that are valuable for higher levels, who in return hunt other things that are focused for experience yet provide good amounts of money. This is where it's balanced, because for the higher levels it's easier to get money and buy these products from the lower levels than try to get them themselves. This is something that I find rather positive of the current market system, because regardless of how low level you might be, there's plenty of way to make decent money. For more information about this, I will have another video on how and where to make money in Tibia. Moving on, now that we have discussed about the difficulty in punishment, experience, and money, let's talk about the requirements to play the game. Most computers should be able to run Tibia these days, as the game hasn't really upgraded the client all that much. Sure, you might have lower FPS compared to other people, but the game should still be playable. However, just like before, actually much worse, the game is heavily dependent on premium content, which means you will need a premium account to play the game as intended. This is something that Subtitles hasn't shown any interest on fixing, because the free account area is still basically the same exact version you played 10 years ago. There really hasn't been any major updates that could change this. The spawns are really outdated, and overall the content starts to fade away before you reach level 100. That's if you even get that far while being a free account. So it's important to be aware of this before you think of trying the game on its free version, aka free account, because the differences are really big. Also, the in-game currency purchased with real money nowadays is called Tibia coins. These can be exchanged for a lot of things in-game, mostly for the cosmetic aspect, as they do not affect the gameplay. These coins are the ones used for purchasing premium time, which makes it possible to get premium account from playing the game and buying Tibia coins off player in the market, which is something that also adds to the inflation and devaluation of the gold in-game, since with the introduction of a Tibia coin, depending on the server, you might be able to purchase a full high tier of equipment with a few cents by selling some coins. Some might argue that it does affect the gameplay, because you are able to purchase things like mana potions, blessings, and runes from the coins store. However, all of them are far more expensive than buying them in-game, with the exception of new servers, where the coins are usually much cheaper because the server still has not produced much money. Only in these servers it does affect the gameplay. However, it's not something only limited to people using real life money to use those things, because even the people that are not using their own money can still buy some Tibia coins off the market and do the same. So I don't think the game is pay to win at all. I will make another video on this topic to discuss it further. But this is not as easy as it seems, because the coins sold from Subtitles are not instantly tradable, unless you buy them with Subway gift cards. Yeah, it's kind of silly that that's the only official way. Because of this, there's a lot of resellers that sell coins that are instantly tradable, and some of them are advertised by Subtitles themselves, similar to how a fansite works. I haven't really used any of those services, so I don't feel comfortable recommending any. Do your own research on this before you try to buy anything from a reseller. Lastly, if despite all of this you still want to play the game, the only thing left to decide is which vocation and server you're gonna play. For this, I will make another video which I will link on the screen. But the basic concept is that the vocations haven't changed much all these years. We still have the same 4 vocations with the same 4 promotions, and the spells are pretty much the same. So the easiest way to go is by choosing the vocation you used the last time you play. Another simple way to make the decision is to think on the kind of playstyle you will have. Out of the 4 vocations, the druids are the hardest to play solo and require a lot of money. Sorcerers are fairly good at solo experience and AoE damage, but require a lot of money. Paladins are a budget vocation that requires little money but are slow starters, and knights are in between both paladins and sorcerers. As for the servers, I highly recommend going for the newest servers that fit the kind of PvP you're looking for, since new servers are way more active and usually have a less contested control of the server, unlike some of the old servers where guilds have taken control of the servers and find enjoyment of making everyone else lead the server. If you're actually looking for names, I personally recommend Noctera for NA and Beta for AU. Antica is good if you don't really plan to grind too much, as the competition for higher level spawns is really contested. But at the moment I'm uploading this video, there will be the newer OpenQuick servers Faluna and Honera, which might be a good alternative. I hope the video was helpful. If you have any questions, leave it on the comments, and see you in Tibia.